Hello everybody, this is going to be the R prompt, the Argumentative Research Essay prompt. So we have watched the video by Mary J. Blige with the three people, Joyce, who was the abused woman, Pelon, who is the gang member, and then Paul, who is the drug addict. So what you're going to do is you're going to decide which one of those three is more likely to break out of their cycle and stay out of it. Now you can read over this prompt. I'm just going over it very quickly. So you're going to decide which one's going to be your pro and which one's to be your con. So the first person is, if you think Joyce is most likely to break the cycle, then she's your pro. And then let's say you want to use Paul, the drug addict, as your con. He may break out of the cycle, but you think that Joyce is more likely to break and stay out of it. So Joyce will be your pro, and then Paul would be your con, and then Paul would be your opposing. So when we do the uh, opposing and refuting paragraphs that you did for the last 2 weeks with where did Maya learn more, in which situation, you're going to be doing those as your opposing paragraphs. So you really need to have your thesis statement clearly stated. Who is your pro? Who is your con? Okay, and I think it's easier if you use Joyce, Paul, and Pelon instead of using women in general, because here Joyce is specific and she's also an African American. So that may hurt her or help her, because we know in society sometimes African American people don't get treated as well as others. So, and then Paul is a white man, and then Pelon is Hispanic. So this call comes into play. So I think you should use their direct names, because then it gives you more evidence or more research material to look for. So again, African Americans, Hispanics don't get treated probably as well. So you might want to use that. And then obviously Paul and Pelon are males. So does gender, sex, does that come into play with this? So use their specific names in your thesis statement. Okay. And that's what you're going to do here. And before I jump in, if you want to work in a group, I have a join group discussion board below. And if you are in a group, have a team per group, have one of the group members become the group leader. That might help you situate things. Now I'm saying this and I'm going to type this over and over and over again. If you're in a group and anybody in your group gets flagged for AI, you all get a 0. I'm not looking it up. If someone using a tool that's going to trigger my AI tools, it's a 0 for everybody. So if you don't know that person well, don't be in a group with them. And along with that is, if someone's in your group and they're not going to pull their weight or they're slouching on what you give them to do, get rid of them, dump them. This is college. I wouldn't play with that. So, and you're not hurting their feelings. They're hurting your feelings, or they're disrespecting you by not doing their work. It's not the other way around. So, if you're going to be in a group, make sure you trust the person. You know the person is going to work hard, and no AI tools will be used. Okay. So, and I have students saying to me about AI. I have 120 students, and maybe 5 are being flagged for AI. I don't want to hear excuses because the others are not being flagged. So why are you? And I'm not going to investigate it. That's on you. Okay, so again, prompt. Who? Joyce, Paul, or Pelon? Who's most likely to break out of their cycle? Choose one as your pro, the other is your con. Only choose one pro and one con. Okay, and then you're going to do research on this, and the research video will help you understand that better. But the requirements are that it's going to be 8 to 10 pages long, and you have to have 8 different sources, which means you'll have 8 different in-text citations. And you will have 10 sources in your annotated bibliography. Of the 10 sources you use for that, 8 of those 10 will be used in this paper. Okay? Now, if you use a source that's not on your annotated bibliography, you're going to get an email from me. So I'll go over that more in the annotated bibliography, which you'll probably watch next. So how are we going to format this? So there is let me show you how we're going to do it. Let me click here. Hold on. Okay, I just opened up this forum that we had on how to organize a argumentative essay. I need to move something out of my way here. Come on. Okay, now let me make this larger. Okay, so here are the models of how to write an argumentative essay. So you're going to have to label all of your paragraphs. So let's say you want to use model A to write your essay. You'll put thesis statement, and then you'll put your pro. These are your evidence. So let's say I'm using Joyce as my pro. Maybe reason 1 will be pro 1, pro 2, pro 3. Maybe I have 4 or 5 reasons why Joyce is my pro. Then I would have pro argument 4, pro argument 5. And then would you bring in the counter argument and refute that? Counter argument, who's my counter? I chose Paul the drug addict as my con, so he would be here. It would be counter argument 1, and then maybe I have another that I want to counter against Paul. Okay, remember we want to maybe give facts that, well, Paul has a good chance of, but then we would refute it and say that Joyce overall. This is what you did with Maya and with Mrs. Flowers and the junkyard. Well, the junkyard might have been good for her. However, overall, the time she spent with Mrs. Flowers was better. That's how you refute that. So this is just a guide. So everyone will start with a thesis, whatever model you choose, and then your pro, which I would use Joyce for, and then counter. If I had 2 counter arguments, I would have 2 paragraphs for counter, and then your conclusion. Okay, maybe you want to do model C, thesis statement, counter. They counter and refute, counter and refute. This here they're doing, this one's good here if you have a reason for Paul and then Joyce refutes it. Another one, a reason Paul may be, but Joyce refutes it. Paul, Joyce refutes it. Okay? You choose the model you want. So keep this handy. And I'm going to get out of here and I'm going to go to the example that I typed up. Let's get over here. Here we are. So obviously format your essay. Your name and your group members' names, my name, of course, model A, if you chose model A or whatever model you choose. The title of your essay, introduction, this is where you'll have your thesis. So I chose model A, so model A again was pro, counter. So pro 1, Joyce, pro 2, a reason for Joyce for breaking the cycle more than anybody else. Pro argument 3, Joyce, counter and refuting. This is where I want to bring in evidence. I want to bring in the other side, the con, which for me would be Paul, because we don't want our readers to think we're hiding anything. Okay, and then here, make sure that the topic sentence lets the reader know it's opposing. And how are you going to do that? Follow the starting and opposition refuting phrases that you have been using for the countering. Opposing views argue. Let me show you one of those to make sure you do that right. So forever opposing and refuting, like you did with Mrs. Flowers and the junkyard, you're going to start this with your topic sentence. I think opposing views claim. I think that's the best way. Then you give your evidence. Use there. Counter the argument, refute, and then you have your conclusion. Okay, you're going to do this for every counter and opposing paragraph you have. If you want to do it the way you did it in the discussion board by having your sections, or you can just put in the words opposing views claim that, and then come down here. Admittedly, okay, follow this if you want. However, as long as I know that you're opposing and refuting, okay, that's the way you'll do that. All right. Obviously, in the real world, when you guys go into another class, you wouldn't do this, but for me, I want you to know, I want to make sure you know the parts. So when you do leave my class, because a lot of the stuff that you write in college level courses is going to be argumentation. All right, so let's go through it one more time. Heading, what model are you choosing from the ABCD that you have choice? Title of your essay, the intro. This is where your thesis will be. Make sure your thesis is very clear. Pro, pro, pro. Maybe you have a pro 4, pro 5. Counter argument. Maybe you only have one, but if you have two, put counter argument refutation 1, and then do it here. Counter argument refuting 2. Closing, and then your works cited. And your works cited will look very close to what your annotated bibliography looks like. And again, this needs to be 8 to 10 pages. And it is due on Sunday, November 17th. Okay, so now that you've watched this and you have a clear grasp of what you need to do, come up here and watch, because you have to do the annotated bibliography, and that's due first. Okay, everybody, take care. Bye.